Do you ever catch yourself thinking, I should have done that better? Or even when you do a pretty good job, you don't tend to see all this stuff that you did pretty well. And it could be in a relationship, a job, or a skill like knowing how to grow your finances. So today I want to talk about something that I think many women struggle with. That critical voice, the one that tells us that we fell short of expectation. If that's you, then this video was made exactly for you. So hi, I'm Kathy, and welcome to my channel where we talk about faith, family, and finances to create a life in abundance. Today I wanted to share a moment that I had with my daughter that completely changed how I think about growth and confidence, and possibly even how I should think about myself. By the end of this video, I hope you'll see yourself a little differently too. I hope you'll question that inner critical voice and maybe even give yourself an atta girl for how far you've already come. So, first of all, my daughter and I are completely different. Now, she knows that she's adopted. So she knows all that. It won't hurt her feelings that you know it. But to give you a little bit more context, in a family, so I have 3 boys, and then she's the youngest, and our entire family of 6 people, all 5 of us are introverts. She's the only extrovert. So we tend to argue about almost everything because we see the world so differently. And who knows, maybe that's exactly why God gave her to me. But at the time, it was incredibly frustrating to have to deal with. But then one afternoon, I saw something in her that I was just amazed and so grateful that she was in my life. Of course, she's my daughter. It's not the only time that happens, but you know what I mean. Because even as a 3-year-old, she said something so profound. It changed something in me, completely caught me off guard. So we were at a friend's house, and at the time she was 3, and she was still dealing with the potty training. She wasn't big enough to go to the bathroom by herself, so she said she needed to go. I took her to help her put her on the potty. She's sitting there. I remember her little legs dangling like this because she was kicking her legs. And out of nowhere, she exclaims at the top of her voice, "I'm fantastic!" She hadn't even done anything yet. For a second, I was a little bit dumbfounded at this statement. Because she hadn't done anything, so she wasn't saying that she did something fantastic. She believed whatever she was about to do would be fantastic. Or maybe she believed that she herself was fantastic and it didn't matter what she did. At the time, I was a little bit stunned by this and I didn't know what to do, and I said yes, and I praised her, and that all that ended up happening. And then she went potty and everything, but I remember that statement so well because it was so foreign an idea to me that someone would be completely unabashedly confident in themselves and who they were. The reason why that was such a foreign idea is when I was growing up, I kind of had a very unstable childhood. We didn't have a lot of money. Sometimes our family members were separated. We sometimes were living in somebody else's house. I remember having to go to 3 different schools because we were moving around in a single year. And it wasn't because we were in the military. That wasn't why. But that constant change and feeling unstable made me really just turn within a lot. I remember being super quiet a lot. I remember thinking, don't draw attention to myself. I thought when I would make myself known that I might get in trouble. So I was always trying to be quiet. And I remember there were times when I was trying to do something. And because there was such stress in our childhood, it was kind of like, when you do something, do it right the first time, do it right now. And, that kind of stress. Maybe some of you know what I'm talking about. That kind of thinking got into my head. And so I remember, I know that as a person growing up, I was always trying to be better, be cleaner, be more organized, be more capable, be smarter, be this level isn't good enough, be this level and this level. So much so that I remember that when I would get compliments, I would either reject them or be confused by them, because what I saw were the mistakes that I made. I saw the things that I didn't get done. And after a while, I honestly thought that me being hard on myself was good because I was making myself better. So this little girl on the potty gave me a whole different picture of what confidence and maybe even self-love was. And so I would think about this every once in a while. And as she grew up, I was amazed still how different we were. But I also remember another time where she found a shirt that she really wanted in the athletic store, and it said, "I'm awesome." Really bright letters across it. "I'm awesome." She found it. She's like so excited. She's like, "Mom, can I have this?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "That is definitely you." She was so happy to have found this shirt. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on what we're talking about, she found one that was my size. "Mom, can you buy this? Then we'll be twinsies." And she loved that stuff. I don't know if you have a daughter and you guys do stuff like that. For me, I did not want to buy that shirt. I was like, well, but I'm not awesome. Like, I didn't want that shirt. I didn't think it was me. She got me to buy it, and it was fairly inexpensive though. And I was like, but she's going to love it even more. Okay, fine. I'll just never wear it. She won't remember. She did though. And she would wear her shirt all the time. A few times, she was like, "Mom, please, please, please." She wanted to be twinsies. After a whole bunch of her asking, finally would wear it every once in a while. But I tell you what, "I'm awesome." That was her. "I'm awesome." Kathy, every time I wore it, I tried to put something else on top of it, because I felt like a fraud wearing that shirt, because I didn't think I was awesome. I wore that shirt a total of 3 times. She wore hers like 50 times or something like that, because she loved it. And I remember the second time I wore it. So we were at a grocery store, and I was pushing the cart, and I remember a stranger came up to me and read the shirt, knew my daughter was wearing the same shirt, and she looked at me and said, "Yes, you are." And that moment left me with a question that I had to think about and think about and think about. And the question is, was there once a little girl inside of every woman who thought she was fantastic? And because I felt the way I felt like an imposter wearing that shirt. At what point did maybe even a lot of women end up feeling like I was feeling, where now we don't think we're fantastic? What we think of is, no, I should have done better. And I get it, because life happens and life changes us, and we learn, and we have a little bit more realistic expectations. But I wondered if maybe we go a little too far. And instead of having tempered confidence, we end up throwing the confidence out the door altogether and calling it humility. Because now we have almost a lack of confidence, and we're just constantly questioning ourselves. Maybe that's not you. Maybe it's just me. But I've talked to a lot of women, and I don't think it's just me. And so after thinking about that, I started doing a little experiment. And what I mean is, I would see my daughter, who is, by the way, 10 years old and now still highly confident. But when I didn't feel that way, I kind of was like borrowing her confidence. Could I be a little bit more confident? Things like saying yes to, I will learn how to teach Zumba, even though I've never had dance training before. I just love the class. Things like, okay, I'm going to borrow a little of her confidence when I want to travel to a new country, but I don't know anyone that's there. Or starting a YouTube channel, even though I do not love seeing my face on camera. And also following where I believe God is leading, maybe even before I felt qualified, where I take a step forward instead of waiting until I feel like I'm enough of anything, enough qualified, enough smart enough, enough ability, enough money to do that or whatever. I started borrowing a little of my daughter's confidence, and something very interesting started happening. Now, I still don't feel qualified all the time. I still hear that critical inner voice. But I realized that more times than not, stepping out, even a little bit before I feel ready, tends to work out better than I had thought, more times than not. So that critical voice doesn't get to make all the decisions anymore. I still hear, but I started allowing myself to feel that courage to step out, to be confident, to start. And that brings me back to that beautiful little girl who was so uninhibited that she could just accept herself and love herself and believe that anything she would do could be fantastic. So maybe confidence isn't believing that you'll do everything perfect. Maybe it's believing that you're just worth trying. Maybe that little girl wasn't as naive as I thought. Maybe she was actually speaking a truth that I had lost. She just hadn't learned how to doubt herself yet. And maybe it's time to let those unabashedly confident little girls speak again. So I'd love to ask you something. Do you remember a time in your life when you believed more easily in yourself? Or is there a little girl inside you who still needs to hear she's doing better than she thinks? If you have a confident little girl story, I'd love to hear about that in the comments. Or you could tell me what you are now realizing that you actually are pretty good at, that you were not giving yourself credit for. Now, I'm going to say pretty good because I really wanted to say great at, but I know that you might be a little too humble to say you're great, even if it was true. So we'll just go with pretty good for now, okay? So if you're pretty good at it, go ahead and put that in the chat. And if you can think of someone who is pretty good or even great at something who doesn't give herself enough credit either, please send this video to her too. And then click on the next video that I've got lined up for you up here, and I'll see you in the next one.